Hey, Kathy.
Good afternoon. How you doing?
Good to see you again.
And you? I love that technology allows us to do this from hundreds of miles apart.
I know. I was just thinking about that this morning. I'm like, what a blessing. What a crazy era that we live in.
It really is. It really is. I put on the miles yesterday, or kilometers, I guess, whatever you want to use, going to different meetings and speaking things. And then today, I just get to do it from the comfort of my home. So we've got all the bases covered. It's great.
Sweet. Now, where were you this week?
This week, I actually, yesterday, so you know who Jason Levine is?
Yes.
So he asked me to come out to his studio and do an interview with him yesterday.
Fantastic.
Yeah, was it ever fun? And so that'll get dropped, I don't know, whenever. He's like way better at this stuff than we are. So he does all the editing and this, that, and the other. But it was so
Nice.
much fun. Yeah. And then from there, so that was in Breton that we
Hmm.
went and found this awesome little coffee shop. So if you're ever in Breton, you have to go to their little coffee shop. It's Farmhouse Coffee, I think it's called. So good.
Nice.
So good. And then from there, I went to Tomahawk, which is about 40 minutes away. It's another little, blink and you miss it, perfect rural Alberta town with
Hmm.
nary a, certainly not a street light, nary a stop sign, but it's my kind of people. And I got to chat over there with, I think, probably about 150 people that
I
came.
saw a photo of the meeting. It looked really
Yeah,
well attended.
we had so much fun. And it was so good because you go to these things, and typically when I do the bigger presentations like that, I've got the PowerPoint that I bring, and anything that could go wrong went wrong. Like it
Oh,
just
no.
wasn't going to happen. So we're going to just wing it. And so we did. And everybody had a great time, got their questions answered. And then we got home, I think at like 10:30 or something like that last night. And yeah, I love it. I love it.
Good for you.
So
That's
that's my
very
catch up.
cool. That's so nice that you're having those opportunities. Last week I was able to do two meetings.
You
So
were.
yes, one in Cardston, which is only 15 minutes from where I'm at. So
Yeah.
that was very nice. And it was with folks that I was, for the most part, familiar with. There was a few people that I'd never met before that were there.
Mhm.
Really great discussion, a wonderful hostess. And then on Saturday night, I was up in Calgary doing a
Yes.
meeting there.
Right.
We had 15 ladies there, and it was just this wonderful mix of ladies. We had
Mm,
some ladies who said, I'm not for Alberta independence, but I just want to understand. I
yeah.
want to understand where other people are coming from. I have so much respect for that. Like, I was just like, thank you so much for being here. And it was
Mhm.
just this really amazing, fantastic discussion. And that is where I met our next guest that we're going to speak with today.
I know. When you told me about her, I was so excited. I was like, "Yep, I got to meet this lady. This is
So,
so much fun."
just let me tell you, like, we kind of went around the circle, like, so everybody could kind of say, like, why they were there and kind of who they were
Yeah.
and where they were from. Most everybody's from Calgary or from, we had Cochrane. Yeah, I think that was mostly where everybody, oh, we had a High River and Okotoks as well. But, anyways, and when this woman, Joanne, started to speak, like, the place just went silent. And she had been talking about maybe a minute and a half. And I heard the girl next to me, she was like, preach it, sister. I was like, okay, we're getting her on. It
That's great.
was great. It was a bunch of sisters there that were
Love it.
just just loving being with each other and having this back and forth discussion. So
Don't keep us in suspense. Who is
we'll
this
give you a
lovely
suspense.
lady?
We're gonna bring Joanne on, and give me 1 second here. I'm gonna bring her in. There we are.
Hi,
Hi.
Joanne.
How are you?
Oh, I'm great. Thank you.
That's good. Awesome. Well, Joanne, you know what? We are just so grateful that you're willing to take the time to do this. And, it's not something that comes easy to everybody. A lot of women are kind of like a little reticent about, coming on camera.
Yeah.
So I was so grateful when you were like, yep, I'll do it, which is just wonderful. So, if you will just go ahead and you can just kind of tell us, who you are. Oh, you know what? I did forget one thing. Hang on. we're just going to mention very quickly that we are doing this episode. This is episode 3 of X Factor Female Voices on Alberta Independence. And we are doing it in collaboration with the Alberta Nation. So
That's right.
if you want to know anything about anything to do with Alberta Independence, if you're looking for articles, videos, events, whatever, go to albertanation.com. They are wonderful. And it's been so much fun working with them. And so with that, Joanne, we're going to ask you to introduce yourself and just tell us what brings you to the Alberta Independence Movement.
Thank you for the chance to do that. I guess the first thing I'm going to say is, let's remember who we are. And I'm going to give you a bit of history, some successes, and some failures, because we stopped paying attention. Now, in the last episode that I listened to, you were talking about what is it that's different about us out here. I can tell you what it is. It's energy. That energy of the pioneers is embedded in the soil of this province, across the West. It's embedded in the air we breathe. It's embedded in everything we do. Do we recognize it? Do we necessarily feel it? No. But that doesn't mean you're not being immersed in it, because you are. Do you know what we in the West are capable of? I've lived here for 80 plus years, and I want to share you some of the things that we have done, and many of them I took part in. In 1895, not that one, a document was created in Ottawa telling them to use any gain that they could secure from those Western lands to increase good for themselves. Do you think that anything has changed? Don't think for 1 second, but by saying to them, oh, that's not fair, that it will move them to change. They knew that to become the West where they could reap the profits, workers had to be there. So the Canadian government advertised worldwide that free homesteading land was available. As usual, there was a catch. You would be required to live on the property for 7 months of the year and to break up or make productive a certain number of acres. People came, some with only their clothes, some with seeds they hoped to grow, which didn't, mostly not knowing the weather conditions that they would face. But they all came with one thing: hope. With hope that they could have freedom. If you worked hard, this new country would be a place where families could be raised in a decent society. How many years later is that any different? It's what we want now. Now we have a schooling system that over the years has produced teachers and board members that no longer support moral family value. We have a transportation industry that's so badly supervised, it leaves all of us open to the possibility of injury every time we drive. When I say AI, I mean artificial intelligence. Now we have AI, but we've been warned that using it as a tool is great. But some people are working to alter that. They would like to make AI to become conscious. And if they are able to do that, it may rule us. The greatest and most difficult test for us is the federal government. who believes that any gain they can secure from the Western lands should be used for them. Those people who came and built homes of logs and plaster, who cut lengths of soil and grass to make a shelter, were too busy keeping warm and fed. But they gave the soil, the trees, the air of the West, the spirit that lives in each of us today. Ladies were way too busy at home, but eventually one who became a lawyer and was elected to go to Ottawa as an MP found out that under the Canadian law, women in Alberta were not even considered to be persons. They had to go to London to actually change that.
Mhm.
The famous 5 ladies made it clear that women needed to be included in the growth of the province. Can you just imagine the discussions that went on in those homes? Oh boy. My grandmother's comment about the needed change wasn't that it wasn't as important about being able to vote as it was to be told you couldn't.
Yeah.
Does that ring a bell, ladies?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
It isn't that any of us are, what are we? Rebellious, I guess. But let's face it, we know what's right.
Mm-hmm.
I inherited her spirit, and I believe each of you have. Maybe you have ancestors that came here long ago, or maybe you came to live here recently. But we're all immersed daily in the spirit of those pioneers who came here with hope. At a time when oil money was rolling in, Peter Lougheed, our premier, did everything he could to move us forward, but still trying to preserve the past. And that's where these history books come in. Okay?
Yeah.
Look at the size of this. And all that is the history of one of the little towns where I grew up. Okay?
Show us the cover of that again, Joanne.
It's called Along the Crocus Trail.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? This is something which I think, is something to be proud of that we've accomplished. What the provincial government did, or, they asked people to make committees and to go and to talk to every last family to ask their pioneer stories. How did they come here? Why did they come here? Where they live. It tells exactly the location of where they homesteaded. I just think not losing that was so important.
100%.
And also at that time was when the provincial government had the money and they started doing all of the sites throughout Alberta. There are 19 of them. Things like where the Frank Slide, where the mountain came down and covered the town. It doesn't matter where you go. If you go up into the north, there's ones that celebrates the Cree histories. I can name a whole bunch of them because I love that. And through the years, I've gone to them all. I had a girlfriend about 15 years ago, and she said, tourists come here and go to all these places. Why don't we? So
Mhm.
we did. We made a plan, and we did. We visited them all. At Motor Vehicles, there was a new program. Also before that, one of the things that was happening, let's face it, in the 70s, Alberta was the Wild West. We had all kinds of industries that were just booming, all kinds of new businesses, but we really didn't have a lot of laws governing how a lot of that stuff was going on. One of the things that came out of the government was a fairness that said it didn't matter if you were red, green, black, male, female. If you had a skill, you needed to be entertained for the job. And at that point, of course, along with the famous 5 kind of directory, any of the government departments that were all male were told to hire some of that other kind. I ended up in 1970 as Alberta's first female driving examiner. Me and
Wow.
119 men. And it was great. I mean, I had had all classes of licenses for several years before that, so it was no big deal.
Right.
And that lasted for a few years. And then a government rep came to me and said, the University of Alberta has recognized that there's a tremendous need, and they're starting a pilot project for industrial safety officers, because there are men who'd come up through the ranks and were doing the business of safety, but not getting paid properly or being accredited. And the only way to get paper accreditation would be to go to university in Guelph in Ontario. Well, you know, was a no-win.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to university, me and the men. It was crazy. They all saw that this blonde chickie, what's she doing here? Until they saw that, by the results of the tests that I wasn't there just to look funny. It was great. I was part of developing after that the provincial organization of industrial safety officers. Crazy stuff. I changed from motor vehicles to transportation and then got involved with, that program to tell people that we're going to have a law that says you have to wear a seatbelt. Oh, my God. Yeah, that was interesting. Anyway, there was also a program where they said that anybody that was convicted of impaired driving would have to take a training session before they could get their license back. Well, I was one of the first instructors, and I did that off and on for 10 years. So that's why you were saying about people being shy to get on camera or anything. I stood in front of people that were there under conviction. Okay. And they were not happy campers. So the government really, paid to train me so that I can talk anytime, anywhere.
Sure.
During that time, there's something I want to bring in too. There was a police force in Alberta that existed then, about 30 men, and all they did was check trucks and buses. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
At that time, we had some of the safest roads in Canada. Because trucking companies knew they didn't bring trucks into Alberta if they weren't in good shape, if the drivers didn't know what they were doing, because they would be checked out. Well, I can't go into what happened with the government, and I won't even try. But at the end of the 70s, there was a change in government. And somebody in government had this wonderful idea that to save the government money, they would disband that police force and they would take all of motor vehicles and their testing and whatever and farm it out.
Mm.
And that thing has been allowed to run amok until about a month ago. Oh, gosh darn. They've announced that because of public complaint and things like the Humboldt thing,
Mhm.
okay, they developed a new task force in the government to go look into all of the bad training and testing and everything that's been going on. Okay. So when I say we had a good thing going, and for some reason, a government decision was made that let it all fall apart. But we've come back. And the reason that we've come back is because of public complaint.
Mm-hmm.
So you think that one person can't make a difference? You bet we can.
Yeah.
Every time you make the effort to contact and say, this isn't right, it needs to change. What can you do about it? Whatever. You know?
Yeah. Makes a difference.
Yeah. Just, oh. The 70s was also another really strange thing. Prior to that, the school buses had all been owned independently. You know, a farmer or a businessman or anything would have one and hire it out to the school board. Well, the school board ended up with enough money that they bought their own. Well, then they found themselves in a position where they were having to train and test drivers and all this sort of thing. In transportation, we developed something called the Big Black Book. It was one of those ring binder books with rings about 6 inches big.
Oh, sure.
And I understand from friends that are taking driver training in school busing now, they're still using something like the Big Black Book. I have one more thing to talk about that I get honest, quite emotional about. You think people don't make a difference? People that have been picked up by STARS ambulance. It's their 40th anniversary this year. It says since 1985, STARS has flown 63,000 missions. Here, listed on this page, are the locations of 3,694 missions carried out from the 6 bases in Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. Today, they own 13 helicopters, and they're still depending on people's donations.
Mm-hmm.
But you know how it started? It started with Lions clubs. You know, every time you go to a little town, there'll be a little sign that says, this town has a Lions club.
Yeah.
And those Lions clubs, they had bake sales and they did everything. Ours had a little trailer that had a popcorn machine in it. And we sold popcorn for 25 cents a bag. Anytime there were 2 people standing somewhere, we were selling popcorn. When STARS started, the Lions Club was paying, this was Lions International, was paying for the rental of the helicopters. The staff on them, the medical staff and the pilots were volunteers. That's how STARS got started. Ladies, every time you baked something or did something in one of those little Lions clubs, or you bought something in those little towns, you protected the life and the medical kind of response that we have today. Do you really think, no matter what happens in Alberta, that we don't have what it takes to make it better? Because we do.
We do.
Oh,
Absolutely.
that's beautiful. That's beautiful. But Joanne, I have to ask, with all of that history, that experience that has brought you to where you are today, I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer as to why you see that Alberta independence has to happen. But we also run into people that are in the same age group as you who are very frightful of it, because to them it's a bit unsure. So what would you say to those folks?
I don't know that I have a perfect answer for them. I've always been a person that didn't fit in too well. I was born lacking the ability to feel fear. And my poor parents, by the time I was 5 years old, they didn't try to say to me, "No, don't do that." They would say, "Well, if you're going to do it, try not to get hurt."
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
My whole life has been like that. I have guardian angels that lay things before me. Now, I don't know at the time. I'm not that intimately connected that I can say, "Oh, yeah, gee, thanks for this." I can look back and say, "Wow." It's like I didn't start out to be the first woman anything, but they put opportunities in front of me, and I would just say, "Oh, I think I could do that."
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing that I hear in all the years when I worked in male fields, okay, because I was always surrounded by men. I mean, I started driving my dad's cattle truck when I was about 12, and it just went from there. When I was a single parent and I worked for the government, their wages were very little, and I could work one day on a weekend and drive truck and make as much as I did 5 days with the government. So I was around the male thing most of my life, and they would look at a situation, decide what they were going to do, and then the one comment that I would like to sort of leave with you is, "Let's get her done."
Very
Okay?
good. That's perfect. That's perfect. And it is what we need to do. We got to keep pushing forward and get her done.
Fearlessly. Fearlessly.
Yes,
Like
of course.
having confidence in like everything that you've brought up, Joanne, about who we are as Albertans, about the very land that we live on, about the history and all the strength that stands behind us, waiting for us to take that next step. I love the book that you showed. I'm going to quickly show mine. I live in one of those tiny communities where we have our book too, Roots and Branches. This one was just updated this year. And yeah, it goes back to the 1800s, and it's showing all the families that lived here and where they came from and some of the trials that they went through. And what businesses they own, all that. Joanne, you have laid it out perfectly. That is who we are as Albertans. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a perfect spot to end it, right? To wrap up the conversation. It is who we are, and I don't think there's any reason we need to be ashamed of that. No matter what anybody in the East has to say, and they sure like to have their opinions, whatever. Doesn't matter to us. We will just keep moving forward and we'll get her done. Joanne, you're amazing. Thank you so much for coming. I mean, it kind of felt like story hour again. You're just sitting here listening and taking it all in. I just
So,
loved it. I
so
loved it.
inspirational. So inspirational.
It is. It
Thank
is. I
you.
think this might be the first time that Angela and I have been so quiet in any of our
Well, preach it, sister.
right. Oh,
Be
ladies,
happy
you guys
to
are
anytime
amazing.
you want me to.
Thank you, Joanne. We really appreciate it.
All right. Take care, girls.
Well, Kathy,
I'm speechless, and that never
she's
happened.
amazing. And it's so true. Like everything she said, so true.
Yeah. And I love how like it was that walkthrough of how things have changed in Alberta for the better because somebody saw a need and just did it. Just did it. Didn't matter, that it was a bunch of guys in the room. Okay, well, walk in and sit down and get her done.
Yeah.
You see a need, fill it. You see something that has to be done, fill it. I just really love like the chutzpah of the story. Not waiting for government to look after it, right? It was,
No, like the
and it
story
really,
of stars. I did not know that.
I
I mean,
didn't.
I
No,
knew that they have their different fundraisers and stuff every year, but I did not know that. And that is a Western institution that we just recognize. And, like not long ago, I was on the highway just north of Claresholm and there was a massive accident. And sure enough, there comes the helicopters and it's like, wow, it's bad if stars have shown up, but what an amazing experience that they're here, right? They're just like the heroes that you're waiting. We were waiting on the highway for a couple of hours, and then the helicopter shows up. And I mean, that is a Western institution. That's an Alberta institution, and I had no idea how it started. But like you say, you're not waiting for government to come in and fix it. You see a need, take care of it.
figure it out. Yeah,
Love it.
figure it out.
Love
Awesome.
it.
As always, Angela, a pleasure every single time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And we'll do this again next week.
Yeah, I'm excited to see who we get to talk to.
It'll be great.
Cool.
Have a good one, Kathy.
You too.